In the depths of our existence, mysteries lurk, beckoning with whispers of the unknown. One faces an elevator teeming with spectral passengers offering an eerie invitation. Another encounters the elusive Hat Man, a harbinger of unease straddling the line between dreams and reality. And in the quiet of night, a figure stands bedside, a silent witness to a tragedy echoing across dimensions. These fleeting encounters leave only questions, stirring the soul with a chilling reminder of the unseen forces that shape our world. We'll see you on the inside. Folks, welcome back to Sleep with the Lights On. My name is Scott, and I will be your curator of the curious for the evening. And I'm joined, as always, by everyone's favorite wet blanket, my father-in-law, Christian. Christian, how are you doing?
It's a warm, wet blanket. I don't know what to tell you besides that.
Okay.
No, I'm doing well.
Well, that's a plus. Anyway, we appreciate you guys tuning in for yet another episode of Sleep with the Lights On. If you are new to the show, be sure to subscribe to the channel where we are dropping these bad boys every other Friday for the time being. And we're trying to work our way into a couple new shows, and who's to say when that's going to come around schedule-wise, but we like to think that it's in the near future. If you're a fan of the paranormal, the unexplained, non-sensical soundboards, and just a healthy dash of dry humor, then you're in the right spot, my friends. And if you haven't, check out the companion podcast, The Freaky Deaky, that drops every single Thursday wherever you get your spooky ghost podcasts. With all that aside, let's get into these stories. I got some good ones for you today, Christian.
I'll be the judge of that.
You will be the judge of that, and you're probably going to be the judge of it before I even finish half these stories, and that's fine, honestly.
Not true. I'm just practicing right now.
Sure. Anyway, this first one is called The Elevator, and is by Ellen Smithy, 82. I've had paranormal activity my whole life. Almost none of those have even been unnerving. So I'll tell you one of my strangest. When I was 10, I lived in Southwest Texas. It got so hot in summer there that one day we literally fried an egg on the sidewalk. On this particular summer day, my mom had taken me and my friend to the library to check out and read some books. We had finished our reading and picked our books, and so we decided to play around with the elevator. There were only 2 floors to the library, and one of us would go into the elevator, and as soon as the doors closed, the other would race down or up the stairs and try to beat the elevator. I was waiting for the elevator on the 2nd floor, and as it dinged, my friend took off. But as I stood there, the doors opened, and I got a huge shock. The elevator was full of about 8 or 9 people, but they were all looking up at the numbers inside it, staring unblinkingly like Zen cows. There was a man at the front wearing a black 3-piece suit, gloves, a fedora, and a cane. Keep in mind that this is in Texas during 110-degree heat. He was gaunt, with a white mustache, and slightly resembled the guy in Needful Things. He smiled wide when he saw me, and he said in a voice I'll never forget, "There's room for one more." I was freaked. No thanks, I replied. The elevator doors closed as the man sort of tilted his hat. As I stood there in shock, my friend came back up the stairs slightly winded, saying, "Hey, where were you?" I explained to him I couldn't use the elevator because it was packed full, and he said there was nobody on the elevator. I look back on this often and question what if I'd gotten on. It haunts me. I have absolutely no clue what would have happened if I'd gotten on the elevator, and it's sort of frightening for sure. I know how it all sounds, but I swear to the higher power this really happened. It's a little creepy.
It is creepy. I'm not sure it happened, but...
Oh, so you just think he was like, I'm just going to make this crap up real quick. Hold on.
Not necessarily that. He was a kid. I think sometimes kids see things.
Well, that's a lot for a 10-year-old to make up with his mind's eye, I'm afraid. But, I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible. These things do happen, but...
Maybe it's not makeup. Maybe it's what he saw. But is it imagination? Is it embellishment? Is it a portal into another dimension?
That last one, you're piquing my curiosity a bit. I like that.
And what's the history of this property?
I know.
That's the first place I would go if a strange experience happened to me. I would check its history to see if there's a reason, if there's a connection,
Yeah.
if there's something spooky that happened there in the past.
Could be. It's kind of weird that the only person that actually interacted with him was this ghoulish looking dude in the front, and everyone else was just staring up at the numbers, like not blinking. Oh, that is creepy. I'm sorry. And then that weird guy with the cane and the 3-piece suit where it gives off like Grim Reaper vibes. For there's room for one more. You're like, I think I'm all right. I'm good. I'll catch the next one. It's fine. There's only 2 levels here anyway.
Did you ever see things as a kid that you look back now and you're like, I didn't really see that? But what the hell is going on with me in my imagination? Because kids have their imagination something else sometimes, but
Sometimes.
I think sometimes also it feels like reality. And sometimes when you're a kid, it's hard to determine which is which based on your imagination and how your brain is processing information.
Perhaps. Yeah, I've seen things as a kid, but nothing that I can think back on and be like, oh, I totally made that up in my head.
I can think of one. I don't know if I made it up in my head, but it probably wasn't supernatural, and that's the flames in my bedroom.
The devil coming through. Yeah, that definitely didn't happen, right?
It didn't happen because there's no devil, but what was it that I saw, and where did it come from?
Who's to say?
Was it my head? Rub my large head.
I don't know how to answer that. And so I won't. Interesting story all the same. What do you folks at home think? Do you think that this is some kind of glimpse into a different dimension? Do you think this, we've heard elevator stories before. There's been interesting correlations with, the supernatural. A lot of times it's like you'll push a button, you end up on a floor that doesn't exist. As a matter of fact, I heard a story about that recently. I think it's a different podcast or something like that. Goes to a floor that doesn't exist. Lights are all on. There's no power in the building, whatever. But it's like these things are just like captured in time, I don't know. Maybe there's something magical about elevators. Who knows,
That's a good question. M. Night made a movie about an elevator, so...
That was a good movie. I enjoyed that. And now whenever my piece of toast lands face down, I get real anxiety about it.
Really?
Yeah. I think of it, like that scene pops up in my head every single time. If I drop something, it lands face down. I'm like, oh, something bad,
But it always lands face down.
Just from being top heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd think that would register, and it does, but I'm still like, I don't know. Who's to say? Is the devil in my toast? All that and more at 11. Beyond that, I really don't have too many, I don't have any answers for that story, but I did enjoy it a lot. I like any kind of creepy elevator story. There's that Korean elevator game that is supposed to be, it's 100% made up, but...
It's like Candyman for elevators.
Pretty much at that point, but I remember when I first read it, I'm like, holy crap, what? And I was like, oh, it's 100% made up. Anyway, let's get into the second story, shall we? It is called You Invited Me In. The Hat Man. Uh-oh, some Hat Man action. It's been a while. It's been a while since we've had the Hat Man on the show. Come on in, Hat Man. No, wouldn't that be interesting?
You can sit next to Scott.
Yeah. Rub my large head. This is an anonymous submission. It says, when I was pregnant with my second child, I would have insanely vivid dreams.
There's the problem right there.
Found it. We don't even have to continue. Christian solved it. Usually just random things, but one night I dreamed about what I'd come to know as the Hat Man. I'll give a little background for context in the dream. My friend Anna recently moved to a different home, and her friend Charlotte moved into the old one. Me and Charlotte were only acquaintances, but since Anna had lived in the home, I was very familiar with it. In my dream, I was walking up to the house with my husband and my oldest daughter. I was coming to babysit for Charlotte. It was super foggy and dark with no other houses around it. Nothing but a man sitting outside of the fence. He had his back turned to us, just staring at the house as he sat in a wheelchair. The feeling I had was extremely uneasy, and something about the man was just off. As we approached, I got the sense that this man wanted to get into the house but couldn't. He appeared to be middle-aged, nothing stood out beside the wheelchair. And his hat. It was a hat you'd see in a show like Peaky Blinders. The closer I got, the more I somehow knew that this was not a good person. In fact, he was not a person at all, but something pretending to be one. And the wheelchair was only a guise for him to seem like he was not of any threat. Don't ask me how I knew all this, it's just dream logic, I guess. I said to my husband as we came up beside him, almost passing the entrance to the gate, I said, "Don't look at him, don't talk to him." For whatever reason, I looked at his face then. Wow, going against your own advice immediately. Bad news.
Don't think of an elephant.
Oh, damn it. For whatever reason, I looked at his face then and he started to change. I can't really describe what he became, but as it grew and morphed, I could sense his anger fuming as he became this distorted, towering thing. We quickly rushed past him and into the house. He had disappeared. When I got into the house, nothing was right. It was abandoned and dilapidated, save for a worn kitchen table with 3 little girls, all in the same onesie. I could see 2 were twins and 1 slightly older. Now, Charlotte only has 1 son and a toddler girl, and I have never babysat for her or met her children. I told Anna about the dream a few days later. I always tell people my dreams. I think they're entertaining and weird, and I'm sure anyone who has the misfortune of hearing about them probably just thinks the latter. She agreed it was a weird dream and said Charlotte had been talking about her son complaining of a ghost or something in the closet at night scaring him. She told Charlotte about my dream, and shortly after she reached out to me privately, and what she said sent shivers down my spine. Before her daughter was born, she had a miscarriage, twins, and her son had been intermittently telling her about some ghost that came out of his closet at night with a weird hat on. She also said she had been extremely depressed and feeling very off lately. Charlotte asked if I had ever heard of the Hat Man, but I never had. And just as well, the hat in my dream wasn't the same type as the one her son described when he talked about the thing that was in his room at night. I told all the details in my dream, and we ended our convo agreeing it was very strange. I didn't talk to her again after that. Honestly, I had forgotten about all of it since I was so busy with the toddler and would be giving birth soon. My pregnancy was hard, and postpartum was harder. I immediately had severe PPD, and honestly, my brain went to some scary places during that time. I don't want to get into that part much, but I'm really lucky to still be here writing this now. One day, a few months after I had my second daughter, I laid down on the couch to sleep while the baby sleeps. I was in some weird half-dream, half-awake state when I heard and felt someone come to the edge of the couch, standing behind where my head was. I got the feeling it was a man, and he was frightened. Just as fast as he appeared, he disappeared, and something, was left standing behind him. The sense of dread I felt through my entire body was so intense, I felt heat burning through my body just before I jerked awake. As I opened my eyes, jolted upright, and turning to face what was behind me, I caught a strange glimpse. It was something like a fleeting shadow, just a black outline shadow type thing, a tall man wearing a wide-brimmed hat. Then in a blink, he vanished. What the hell did I just see? What the hell just happened? I don't even know why I said anything. It just came out of me saying, "Why?" And in a quiet, retreating voice that was not my own, but unmistakably a man's, I hear, quote, "Because you invited me in." After the initial shock and questioning my sanity, I realized that whatever that thing was, it was the very same energy I had felt from the man in a wheelchair in my dream months before. I'm not one to believe in shit like this, and honestly, it was the last thing I was thinking about since I was so busy and tired from the C-section and adjusting to a new baby. I googled the description of what I saw and scrolled through images, and there it was. The dark silhouette wearing the same hat with the caption, "The Hat Man." I read so many articles trying to piece together this strange experience that made no logical sense. Hat Man. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. We don't have any sponsors. Christian, what do you think of that story?
I think, again, maybe there's something to the talking about the Hat Man.
That like some skinwalker type energy type?
Yeah, because it has become more prevalent since people have been talking about it, since it kind of became an urban legend, because it's more of a recent phenomenon. You don't hear too much old school about Hat Man.
Yeah,
you'll see other things like that, but this Hat Man phenomenon seems to be probably the last 20 years is where it's picked up.
Yeah.
Especially lately.
I mean, internet, obviously, you're going to get that. But I've heard stories, I forget what, it might have been when I was doing in our Hat Man episode ages ago. I believe I was looking into stories and stuff, and there was comments underneath these stories, and there was a couple people from like pre-internet days that were like, yeah, I mean, this thing's coming up now, but I saw this thing in the 70s, or I saw this thing here, blah, 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 XYZ, you know, and I'm like, so yeah, I mean, the internet is definitely, you know, there's some light being shined on it. It makes it a little more, and with that, you're going to get people making up stories, no doubt, you know, but the fact that people have witnessed this thing in particular for ages at this point is kind of what the hell is it, you know?
And I could see people seeing something similar in the 70s because there were still people that wore those hats in the 70s. I remember when I was a kid, every once in a while, an old guy or something would walk by with one of those hats and look kind of creepy because it's out of time almost. That style of dress and hat that you hear about. But
would he ever be standing in your doorway at night, just a silhouette of a man? I see a little silhouette of a man. Hallelujah.
I mean, I don't know if I've seen Hat Man, but what I've seen in my door when I was a kid wasn't a little silhouette of a man. It was a lot bigger than that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Couldn't come up with another song reference to go there, but
he tried.
Yeah.
So you saw something in your doorway? Was it a shadow person, or was it?
I thought it was the sleep fairy.
The sleep fairy or the Sandman?
I think I was looking for the sleep fairy or the Sandman. My sleep fairy kind of took the form of Tinkerbell.
And when he was standing at your doorway, he said, "Enter, Sandman."
Exit light.
There you go. Wow. Beautiful references.
So
how old were you when you saw that?
About a similar age as when the floor opened up, because it was the same house.
Yes, and instead of these things being reality, you only witnessed them in a single home. You didn't see them in different houses or anything like that. There was a concentrated group of events that happened in this house, and it was all your brain.
Pretty much.
But your brain didn't make anything in the other houses.
One other house,
you were jumping on the bed with your friend Scott.
Yeah.
Wasn't me. I wasn't invited.
I was a little bit younger at that house. But
yes.
The other house, very fascinating. Very fascinating.
I wonder if you could go back to that house.
I've driven back by it through the years.
Just knock on the door, be like, "Can I just hang out in here for a few minutes?" Like, what the hell? No, get out.
Yeah, because what's funny is many years later, I was probably 18, 19, 20. My friends and I would go play basketball at the basketball courts at the school right down the street.
Now, did they have basketball in the late 1800s? Was that... I'm trying to do the mental math in my head. If you were 18, 19, 20, that would put you...
in the 80s, 1980s.
Okay. Yep. 1980s, folks.
Yeah.
Continue.
So I would go by that house every once in a while through the years, and it...
Ever get weird feelings from it?
No.
No?
Just seemed smaller and less magical than when I was there.
Yes, of course, house magic. Interesting.
But maybe we need to look into going back to the Hat Man. Maybe we need to look into it. Just speaking his name has the potential to have him visit, because that's what this story kind of makes it sound like.
Yeah, that is very interesting.
She started thinking about the Hat Man, researching him, and all of a sudden he's there.
You rang? Yeah, classic.
Which supports the skinwalker type visitation rules, or it's all in our heads.
You hear that, folks? There's hope or something. Before we get into this third story, folks, have anyone out there had an experience with what is commonly deemed the Hat Man? And if you have, comment it or send it into the gang at thefreakydeaky.com. We should do another Hat Man episode. It's been a very long time, and those are very interesting stories. I get a lot of kick out of them. Some people are like, Hat Man stories are so boring. Oh, no, I don't want any more Hat Man stories. Tony, fucking, it's fine, dude. But I do want Hat Man stories, so send them into me and Christian. But if you send them to email, we both get them. So,
or similar stories that have maybe the same setting or same type of things, but maybe a different character.
Yeah, like the Hat Woman, you know?
The Wendigo, Voldemort, Kushtaka, things that should not be named.
Okay, totally.
but haven't visited us yet since we name them all the
Just
time.
sucked all the wind out of the thing I was doing, but it's cool. It's fine.
Sorry.
This happens.
Just
It's
keep
fine.
doing it and cut me out.
Last thing before we get in this final story, go to the website, the freakydeaky.com, check out the merch shop, submit a story, say hi to your friends. I don't know how you're going to do that on the website, but you'll figure it out. You're a smart person. Okay.
Are you, though?
Probably not. Now let's get into it. You're watching this on YouTube.
Very smart.
You're watching two grown men talk about ghosts on YouTube.
Sounds like a good way to spend your time.
Questionable at best, but we enjoy the company. We like the freaks and the weirdos. And man, there's too many song references in this episode. We got to end this. And by ending this, let's get into this final story, shall we? It is called An Astral Oddity.
A what?
An Astral Oddity. And it is by Blondie's Gift. Had a couple of those myself.
Blondie. One of my first crushes.
Okay. That's what people come to for the Spooky Ghost podcast.
Hey, just put your heart. Wait. How does that go?
I'm not going to give you enough time to figure it out. This story begins.
Put your love into a heart of glass. I could be wrong.
Put your foot into your co-host's ass.
Always wrong.
That's the exact same amount. Wow, very great. Well done. Anyway, this goes. A few years ago, I was asleep, but wasn't.
Did he have lights on?
We can only hope. I saw myself lying there, and a girl was standing next to my bed and my sleeping body. Ooh, yeah. I saw myself, but I knew I was not in that body. She did not. She tried to communicate with me via telepathy or something by staring at me.
Wait, are we dreaming or is he just laying there?
I'm going to go ahead and let you put the pieces together at the end of the story. She tried to communicate with me via telepathy or something like that by staring at me. First, I thought she wanted to do harm. Then I felt like she was scared and wanted to tell me something but did not know how. The next morning, I woke up and was irritated. This dream was so different from the usual ones. I also remembered that she looked like she had been through stuff.
What stuff?
Just stuff. You look like you've seen some things, friend. Anyway, while I was still trying to piece it together, I went to work and opened the browser on my computer to look at the news, which I usually don't do. The first headline I see is a plane crash with school children on board, matching the age of the girl that stood at my bed. To this day, I'm convinced, when I look at the picture of the two girls that were on the plane, that one of them was the one standing on my bed. There's one picture that shows them before departure, and it seems like she was wearing the exact same clothes I saw her with. I still get shivers when thinking about this. Interesting.
Creepy experience.
Creepy, yes.
I think it's very simple to explain, but in this case, let's go paranormal first.
Yeah, let's go with that. Not that's the actual thing. What's the simple? Well, give me the simple science stuff explanation before you get into the fun actual stuff.
It was just
weird dream.
Creating patterns, like looking at the news, seeing the picture. Our memories aren't as good as we like to think they are, so it's very easy to superimpose an image you see in the news and think that that's what you saw. I've done it. You've probably done it. Just similar things, maybe nothing to do with paranormal, but you have false memories in your head based on how you interpreted or the connections you made to things that weren't really connected. We all do. That's why innocent people go to jail sometimes, because people make really these weird connections that aren't real memories, but they feel like it. But the other thing would be, going back to paranormal, is, okay, a plane crash victim all of a sudden almost teleports into the astral realm to communicate with another person, but can't really vocalize or express what they're going through. And what if this, when we talk about how traumatic events leave a mark in different places.
Sure.
That's why we have a podcast, because things like that.
Because we're traumatized.
Things like that may happen. And that's what hauntings could be.
So
this is similar.
Yeah, this person didn't say that the crash took place in their town or anything like that. It just said there was a plane crash with two victims. Right. And so that's my thing. Like, okay, it's kind of weird. Like maybe it was in their town and that would make a little more sense. But outside of that, you just have like this weird astral wanderer who's lost.
But that's possible
Mhm.
when you deal with the astral realm. It's possible to travel to a completely different area that you would think is impossible, or at least meet up with people from different areas in the astral realm.
Mm-hmm. So there's a chance.
And there's CIA documents about the astral realm that you can find easily online.
And if there's one thing that we've learned to do in our many, many, many years of life, it is trust the CIA wholeheartedly.
Well, it's not just that. Those are declassified CIA documents that speak about the time they looked into these types of things, which would be like Project Stargate.
Yes, of
Did I
course.
say it right?
I think that is.
Well, either way, it's, the whole gateway stuff from the Monroe Institute we've talked about before.
Well, that's fascinating stuff. That's one of my favorite topics of all time. Unfortunately, it doesn't really bode too well for the folks over on YouTube, but I enjoy it.
I think the astral realm has a lot of potential there, unlike some of the topics that I debunk on this show. I don't know if debunking is the right word.
Get a load of yourself thinking you're debunking stuff by making up weird theories that don't make any sense.
They make as much sense as the Hat Man.
They make less sense than the Hat Man, which means you're underneath that. You like being underneath the Hat Man? You pervert? No, it's fine. It's Christian, what was your favorite story from the episode today?
I like the Hat Man one.
That was a fun one.
There's a
lot of layers to that one. It's a dream and then reality, and there's babies, and there's a Hat Man, there's a disembodied voice saying, because you invited me in.
I don't believe
TLDR.
The Hat Man is this evil entity. I'm not even convinced it's a paranormal entity. I think it's just
a man that breaks into your house and stares at you.
I think it might just be something that, like, a very old process in our brain that puts that image there for some reason. And I'd like to know, is it something that's maybe connecting to a different realm? Or is it just a process of the brain, very boring, very simple, no magic in the world?
Well, I can answer that for you. The first one, no. The second one.
The first one is when I said it could possibly be paranormal, I thought.
No, the first one was a process in your brain.
Well, either way, it's probably a process in your brain.
That's definitely not that. And everyone at home, use your mind's eye to project your will for Christian to have a Hat Man experience so that he can see it for himself.
Or just come visit me in the astral realm.
Yeah, that works as well.
It'll be a fun story to tell about on the next episode of the pod.
I hate when he calls it the pod.
The podcast.
The podcast. It's so much work goes into this for you to willy-nilly just be like, yeah, the pod.
That's what the kids call it.
That is not what the kids call it. Christian, you're so far removed from the kids. You have no idea what they're thinking. Right? I don't even know what they're thinking. And I'm like a third your age or something. So.
You are not a third my age.
Well, they don't have to know. Okay, I'm 22. You happy?
Have
I seen some things? Yeah. Do I look a little run down? Yeah, these things happen. I'm managing a lot of stuff right now, including stress and not well. So with that being said, folks, we hope you enjoyed this episode of Sleep with the Lights On. Be sure to subscribe for more every other Friday. Go through the back catalog. We got about, 16 of these bad boys on retainer at this point. Go back and check them out. Tell your friends and family if they're into weird stuff just like you. Are you the only weirdo in your family? I don't think so. Tell the rest of them. Tell the rest of them. In the meantime, we'll catch you right back here. Follow us on social media at Freaky Deaky Pod. Have yourselves a merry little whatever day this is, Friday. Who knows? Who cares? Get out of here. And remember, friends, to sleep with the lights on because you never know what is lurking in the shadows. Goodbye.
Be scared.